Hi guys, this is Lalana. Thanks for tuning into the Sovereign Path. Today we're going to talk about healing, and this is a video that I'm making for a few of you who have asked me to expand more on this in some of my videos. So when you're chasing healing, right? This is a big one, guys. I know I preface a lot of the videos by saying this is a big one or this one's huge or whatever, but this is yet another one that is. And the thing is that, you know, I say things in my videos like the awakening is going to become your life. Shadow work or inner work is going to become like your thing, right? And this is absolutely true. Both of these things are absolutely true, but I need to also really make the point that there is a time in the beginning stages and the midway stages that everything about this path just becomes sort of like this whirlwind of, I need to figure it out. I need to look in this rabbit hole. I need to go down that path. I need to figure out this thing. I need to listen to that person. I need to know what's going on in all my ancestral woundings. I need to dig into the Akashic records. I need to figure out where this core wound is coming from and why I'm acting with this way. I need to understand this and this and this and this and this and this and this, right? It's a very natural part of this path that we do that. But I want you guys to recognize that there's going to come a point where, as I've said in a lot of my videos, you've looked down every rabbit hole, you've dug through every, soul record that you have, you've done all the psychic readings, you've taken every, private tarot reading, you've done all the stuff, right? The healing work, the shadow work, the therapy work, the whole sort of thing. And you're still searching. This is the point at which I really want to hit home in this video. This path is not about searching and searching and searching for all the ways you are fucked up and broken. I say things like triggers are the gold mines, and I mean that. But to broaden that saying out, what I mean more is that you don't have to go looking for the triggers, which I've said a lot of times. Don't go looking for the triggers. The triggers, they will find you. They will find you. In the same way as we have this sense, a lot of feminines have this sense, not gender specific, on this path, whereas like, I just want peace. Right? You will get to a point on this path where you just want peace, right? Doesn't have anything to do with happiness, doesn't have anything to do with abundance at that point. You just want peace, right? And when we're in that feeling of just wanting peace, I just want this to end, I just want peace. Sometimes we're also in this place of like, I have to find every single other strand of what's wrong. I have to find, the last remnants of what is wrong. I have to dig up all of these stuff so I have absolutely no trigger left. So I have absolutely no fear left. So I have absolutely nothing left that could possibly trigger me. And so we kind of can get into this thing, especially if we're going round and round in like therapy or, something like that. Or like, as I said, looking through all of like the Akashic records and trying to find every nitty gritty. First of all, that'll never end, right? If you're always looking for something that's wrong, you're always going to find something that's wrong. That's just the way it is. Second of all, it's your ego doing that. It's another mechanism of chasing. And so it's kind of like, we're like, okay, I can't chase the twin. I understand that. I've shifted out of that now. I'm not chasing the twin anymore. I get it. Now I'm chasing my healing. Now I'm chasing the inner work. Now I'm chasing the shadow work. Now I'm chasing the shadows, right? Now I'm chasing the unconscious, right? That whole thing. So it's like a transference, and it's normal that this happens. So I'm not telling you guys like, oh, make sure that doesn't happen. What I'm telling you is to have the awareness that that does happen, but there's an end cap on that, right? This path is not meant to have you searching and healing for the rest of your life. It's not meant to have you looking down every rabbit hole and having 1,000 different Akashic records readings and trying to figure out all the karma and the ancestral bloodlines and how all of these things happened over the past 1,000 of years for the rest of your life. That's not what this is about, right? This is about allowing what you need to see to be seen. you're not going to have to go looking for it. That's the thing. You're not going to have to go searching for it, because whatever is within you is going to be reflected back to you. It's either going to be reflected back to you from the twin, back to you from a coach, back to you from a therapist, back to you from your sister or your brother or your mom, or your job, or the traffic, or the grocery store, you know, or the kid down the street. Whatever needs to come up is gonna come up if you're on an awakening path, right? Your higher self is orchestrating this. It's gonna make sure that whatever you need to see, you're gonna see. And if the higher self is showing you this, and this all the time, and you're ignoring it, then it's gonna come up with other creative ways to show you that same exact core wounding, right? In a different way, through a different person, through a different light. Your higher self is not saying, hey, go search down every single possible, you know, shadow aspect of you that you could possibly find, excavate it all so that you can like lay it out on a table, and let's pick through it piece by piece, one by one, and let's like dissect it all. That's not what this is, but that's what a lot of us think it is, and it's what a lot of us get embroiled in. And we feel like the healing never ends. We feel like, when is the healing gonna end? When am I gonna finally find peace? When am I gonna, right? So just have that awareness. The ego's doing that. The ego's searching for what's wrong. And there's a difference between having an awareness that, you know, for example, you have a self-worth wound, right? An abandonment wound. You have a self-love wound, core wound, right? So we're aware of those. And that's great that we're aware of those. It's good to be aware of that. Then you know where your starting point is, how to work through that, right? But when you're in the place of feeling like, okay, now the ego is saying, well, there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's that. Again, as I said, your ego is going to like look for something to do, because it doesn't have anything to do on this path, right? The ego is starting to be eradicated. Programs are starting to fall away. So the ego naturally is going to be like, well, I need a job. I need a role to play. I need to feel like I'm important on the spiritual awakening path because I don't really understand it. So let me show you all the problems, right? Let me show you more and more problems for you to like try to get through and dig through and understand and excavate and all of this sort of stuff. You know, you're gonna know when you're at that cap where you have done the healing work, the shadow work, the inner work, whatever, you know, terminology that we are comfortable using. All it is basically is deleting the programs that are not you, right? Deleting the definitions and the identities and the things that you have been using in order to navigate the 3D, right? All we're doing is removing the masks, we're removing the layers. So it's not actually healing in that way, but that's the way that we phrase it, right? You're gonna know when that's coming to an end. And when it's coming to an end is when you get to the point where you need to allow it to end. When you need to allow it and have the awareness of, okay, I'm starting to feel more neutral now. I'm starting to feel more in neutrality now. I'm starting to feel like I'm in the void now. I'm starting to feel like I'm seeing glimpses and coming in and out of inner union now. When you start noticing this sort of stuff, it means that you have been removing the bulk of what you needed to remove with the masks and the layers and the definitions and the labels, right? You don't need to, beyond that point, continue to feel like I still need to grab the bull by the horns and like look this thing into the face and be very like, let me do this, let me do this. There is a very important path or aspect of this path in the beginning and middle stages that I am a huge proponent of grabbing that bull by the horns and saying, okay, let's do this. The awakening, the ego death, you know, the inner work and all of that stuff. But this path is nuanced. It moves in layers. It moves in waves, right? And it is being orchestrated and led by the higher self that is you, not the ego that is you. It's the ego that's saying like, okay, let's do this, let's get behind this and all that. It's fine in the beginning to allow that to sort of push you and to be the fuel to sort of propel you through things. It's fine. But you also have to get to the awareness that that's not how this whole thing is going to play out, like I say, for the rest of your life. You're not going to be in some unending cycle of healing, right? You don't need to be having coaching or therapy on the awakening path for the rest of your life. I mean, speaking generally. If there's other things going on, potentially. But when it comes to actually shedding off the layers that have been blocking your light and blocking your love and blocking your I am presence so that you could experience spirituality, or so that you could experience the 3D, that was a weird slip, so that you could experience the 3D, that's not a never-ending process. This process, as I've said before, does it have an end goal? Well, you're awakening, right? You're coming into ascension, you're coming into higher consciousness, you're coming into the awareness and the embodiment and the being that you are higher self, you are the I am presence. Not the like understanding of it, but the actual embodiment, the energetic embodiment of it, right? Of you. That's where this path is leading. But as I've said, you continue to ascend, you'll continue to ascend. You're never not ascending. That's just part of what we do here. So hopefully that, you know, like gives you guys some clarity in regard to this whole shadow work, inner work, never-ending thing, you know, that seems to be, you know, it comes up a lot. It comes up a lot. Like, when am I gonna feel better? When is this gonna end? When am I gonna find peace? And all of those sort of things. Just make sure that you are you're not resisting the process, right? By, like I say, by feeling like the ego is still in the forefront of still, like, you know, being this proactive aspect that's looking for all sorts of stuff that's wrong. Have the awareness that this path is leading you into peace. It's leading you into a higher timeline. It's leading you into joy. It's not leading you into this never-ending cycle of healing and trying to figure out what's wrong now. Okay? So, yeah, just had to bring that through, because I know a lot of people are kind of going round and round. And, you know, there was a moment on my path as well that I was like looking in every single solitary direction that I could ever look for those things, for feeling like I just need to get it out. I just need to eradicate it. I just need to get this stuff out. I just need to blah, 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 blah. And that does become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're always looking for things that are wrong, you're always going to be finding things that are wrong. When you're always believing on some level that there's more work to do, then there will always be more work to do, because you're the creator of your reality, and so that you continue to create those things, right? So as I've said before, the triggers are going to find you. The higher self is going to be triggering you in the ways that it knows, as the higher octave of you, that you need in order to ascend, in order to grow, in order to release the aspects of you that are no longer serving your highest alignment. So trust that the higher self that is you is guiding this. It's bringing your triggers in, right? It's bringing them straight through the divine masculine physically, everybody knows that. But it's bringing them in all sorts of other ways. Like I said, through parents, through children, through pets. Not through pets, they're the best. Maybe through some of you with pets. In other ways, right? The higher self that is you is going to be orchestrating when the shadow work begins and when it ends. And it does end, right? It does end. It's not never ending. So as you're shifting more and more into union, inner union, I can't talk today. As you're shifting more and more into inner union, you will notice, as just, you know, organically, you will notice that those old aspects of you, those old energetic resonances, the parts of you, they just will naturally start to fade away. And as those things naturally start to fade away, there will be less and less and less triggers. There will be less things that are bothering you, right? And you'll get to the point where maybe it'll only be one or two. And that's when you know, right, as that less and less, I don't need to be looking for stuff, right? I don't need to be looking for wounds or for what's wrong. I feel better. When you get into the void stage, you know, this is when you just get that reset button and you start just feeling like, you know, a lot of people just feel absolutely nothing. They feel completely flatlined. Some people enjoy the void. A lot of people don't, where they just feel like nothing. And why do I just feel nothing? This is that place of having the awareness, as it's giving you that resting space that you don't need to continue to be triggered over and over again. It's like you've done a tremendous amount of work at that point when you get to the void. And you shift into neutrality, and then when things start coming up for you, triggers, you're just like, yeah, I see it, yeah, I see the trigger, but it has no residue. It's not sticking to you anymore. It's not being able to pull at you anymore because it's no longer in your vibratory resonance. It can't stick around in your vibratory field because it's fading, right? This is how you know you don't need to go searching for things. That your healing path, right, is coming to a close when you start really like anchoring into your neutrality and things just really don't bother you anymore. You're just the observer. You're like, yeah, I'm good. I can take it or leave it. I'm good, neutral. And then inner union, that deepens and you anchor. And not only are you just neutral, at this point, you're just like, love is just beaming from within you because now you've come into the embodiment that you are the I am presence. And you remember what you are as the truth of love and existence and all of those wonderful things. None of those aspects are looking to be fixed, right? They're not looking to be healed. They're not looking to be mended and all of those sort of things. So just have that awareness, guys. You're gonna know when this stuff starts to wrap up, and you don't need to continue to look or think that the healing thing just goes on forever and ever and all that kind of stuff. It absolutely does not. There is an ending to the shadow work. There is an ending to the inner work. So allow the higher self that is you to bring in what it knows that you need, you as it, what you need on this path. You don't need to go searching for it, and you certainly don't need to feel like you have to be, doing this for the rest of your life and when is this ever going to end? And also have the awareness as that when you're looking for what's wrong and you're actively searching, and like I said before, it's normal in the middle to the beginning stages because you're still trying to understand what this path is. But when that just like continues and it just becomes like, I'm always looking for what's wrong and I'm always like trying to get in there and excavate it and all those things, that's generally coming from ego, because the higher self is going to be bringing in what you need and what you can handle, right? Emotionally, mentally, physically, all of those sort of things at any given time. This is why I say things like you don't need to go detoxing, because that's a mental construct that you're trying to place onto a path that's being led by the higher self that is you. It's not an egoic path. It's not a mental path, right? That's what I'm saying when we're trying to like place these things of like, okay, the ego's like, well, I know how to do it. The mind's like, well, I know how to do it. I'm just going to detox now. I'm just going to search for all the wounds now, right? I'm just going to detach now. I'm just going to cut cords now. Just have in mind that the higher self is not doing any of those things, right? That's not what the higher self does. The higher self doesn't detach. It doesn't cut cords. It doesn't go searching for, more healing work to do. It doesn't detox. It doesn't do any of those things. Those are all coming from egoic structures and patterns and the mind and the mental, sort of thing that we have created that's trying to walk a path that it doesn't understand. And so those constructs make sense to the ego mind. And so that's the way it tries to walk this path. But that's not the way this path is walked. The way this path is walked is deemed and orchestrated and led by the higher self as you. And whatever you need, it's going to show you. It's going to be bringing it up. Your higher self as you is going to be bringing it up. So you don't need to feel like you have to keep looking and searching and all of that sort of stuff and doing all of these 3D modalities on this path. This is an organic path. It is led by the higher self that is you. You are awakened by the higher self that is you through the twin, if you're a twin flame. All of this is being orchestrated by the highest octave of you. So just relax into that. Let go of the ego, reins that are trying to tell you that you have to do all of these stuff, and just feel back into, I'm being led, I'm being guided. I can surrender into that because I know that my ego and my mind is not the one that's directing the ship here. The higher self that is me is. The higher self that is me is. Can't talk today, guys. Sorry about that. So hopefully that brings you guys some clarity. Hopefully that resonates. As I said, I've had a lot of questions about this, and it comes up often because people feel like it's just never ending, and it does, right? If it feels like it's never ending on some level, just, kind of check in with yourself and be like, am I just like constantly searching and constantly, trying to find things that are wrong in order to like speed up the process or excavate it or whatever else? Am I allowing myself rest? Am I allowing myself space? And all of these sort of things. Am I actually allowing my higher self to really guide this, or am I in resistance in some way? You know, a lot of times we're in resistance. It's not like, you know, it's not like a bad thing. It's just having the awareness of, we don't want to resist the path and make it longer or harder or more, you know, difficult for us, because we still think that we have to do all of these things, instead of having the remembrance and the allowance that it's actually the higher self that's leading all of these things, and the ego that's trying to sort of intervene. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that you have an awesome day.